All right, everybody, thanks for coming this evening. And our guest speaker tonight is on via Zoom, who is now on full screen. And that's Bob, KD4BMG. And Bob is the creator and producer of the HOA Ham on YouTube. And he also has he does a podcast too. And we really like to thank him for coming in out of Tampa Bay, actually Palm Harbor, Florida. And I've been, fortunately, since I got to talk to him last week, been on his YouTube channel, and I am hooked. I am a subscriber, and he does a great job. So our format, rather than put a burden on him for a PowerPoint and all that kind of fun stuff, we're just going to do kind of an interview. Being my human resource background, Lauren thought I could have some interview skills. And Bob and I had a chance to chat earlier, and we're going to kind of make this more like a couple of friends talking, interviewing about him. And we are going to have opportunity for questions after we go through my 20 questions. So Bob, welcome to Monument, Colorado. Glad to have you here.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here. And I do want to ask, first of all, is my audio level good? Because I'm coming through Zoom, through my own software. If you can hear me okay, then we'll just move right on.
Yep, you're perfect. Everything's
perfect.
Thanks.
Perfect. So if you have an HR background, can you tell me what position I'm actually interviewing for? I'd like to know.
Guest speaker of the year.
Of the year. I feel privileged. No, thank you very much. I am honored to be here. Bob Hughes, Kilo Delta 4 Bravo Mike Golf in Palm Harbor, Florida. I just want to say up front, just because I'm a YouTuber does not make me an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm learning in this ham way of life, just like everybody else. And I have a ton to learn. If we handed the microphone off to every one of you, I absolutely would learn something from you. It would not be difficult to stump me with a question. So I happen to have, screen cameras, editing software, so I can look like a genius for a 5 minutes, 10-minute, 20-minute video. That's easy to do when you have all that editing capability. So I'm going to state right now, I'm not an expert. I'm a pragmatist who's learned how to solve some problems.
Great, and that's just what we want to hear. So can you tell us a little bit about your background, maybe, your career, college, education, where you came from?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm a country boy stuck in the city now. I was born and raised in a town called Geigertown, Pennsylvania, population probably 200 people. My grandfather owned a 100-acre plus dairy farm, so I know how to milk a cow, slaughter a hog. And my dad was a general contractor. Back in those days, I'm 60 years old now. So as a 5-6-year-old boy during summer when school was not in session, my daycare was my dad. I was learning the difference between a 6-penny finish nail, an 8-penny finish nail, a 16-penny common nail. And with that experience and work ethic, he taught me I could build just about anything. My wife and I have built all of our homes that we've been in the last 20 years. We just did it ourselves because we're capable of doing that. And that kind of gives me a leg up anytime there's work to do in the shack. I would consider myself mechanically inclined because of that experience in construction. Being in the country, I had a bicycle and I learned how to fix that bicycle myself. Dad made sure I had a motorcycle to run around the 100-acre farm. I learned how to fix that motorcycle myself. So I am quite mechanically inclined. Electrically, I know how to run circuits. RF, over my head. So I understand the basics. Obviously, I passed tech. I passed my general. I am lost in extra. Haven't even taken the test yet. So I consider myself mechanically inclined, a pragmatist. I know how to solve problems that are mechanically related. The electrical side and the RF side, I consult books and YouTube and Google and friends. when I think about, my experience that has kind of led me to where I am today, I went to school for a Bachelor of Arts degree, and here I am, a Bachelor of Arts recipient in a Bachelor of Science world in ham radio, because there's a lot of technical stuff here. And that I ended up in a career in supply chain management. I've been a supply chain director for a defense contractor here in the Tampa Bay area for the last 5 years. Been in supply chain management for the last 30 years of my professional life. And as a supply chain manager, there's a lot of risk management and risk mitigation, which means I solve problems other people had no clue they had. And that really lends itself to my YouTube channel. My brain is always thinking about how to solve things that I think are a problem for me. And sometimes when I present them as solutions, people kind of go, "Oh, I never thought about that. That's intriguing." And that solved the problem that I have. So my brain never stops working about how to solve challenges that are in front of us. 60 years old, 30 years of that was in southeastern Pennsylvania. I'm still a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. I traded my allegiance from the Philadelphia Flyers to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm still annoyed with you guys that you kicked us out from our three-peat in the 2022 Stanley Cup Finals.
Go Avs.
Go Avs. Got my tech in February of 20, went right on to my general in June of 20. So I've been a ham for just under 4 years. And that's probably covering a couple of questions there, Bob. So I'll just pause a moment and see what you want to follow up on or where you want to go next.
Well, with your supply chain background and solving problems, I mean, it's interesting to me is what motivated you, or where was the tipping point that got you to say, I'm going to make a YouTube video? And how have you gone from that first decision to say, yeah, I'm going to keep at it?
Yeah. Well, the second part of that's I guess it's addicting. I don't know why. But so how did I end up on YouTube? I guess as I was learning in my ham way of life, my experience, I'll have to admit my Elmers were YouTube because of a lot of schedule constraints. I did not have the privilege of being at a local group like you all are meeting. I think that's a great way to learn in the ham way of life, whether you think it's a hobby or emergency preparedness or however you view it. I call it my ham way of life. I kind of ended up with YouTube Elmers, and some of them are good and some of them aren't so good. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just stating that was my reality. And I think as I was trying to learn some very specific things about some very specific gear, I watched video after video after video that had a lot of views, but said absolutely nothing about how to use the gear. And I thought to myself, well, I guess I've finally figured it out on my own. I've cracked the nut. I may as well share it with some other people. And that was kind of the genesis of it. And I guess I haven't stopped since then. So it started with feeling like I wasn't getting the answers to the questions that I had. And so as I answered those questions for myself, I wanted to share them with other people. Getting back to the pragmatist and the problem solver, that's kind of how I try to approach my YouTube channel as well. Usually when I'm talking about something, I'm asking myself, what's everyone else questioning or thinking? And a lot of times it's the same questions that I have about a particular piece of gear or a setup or something in the shack. And so that's how it got started. I was trying to answer questions I was trying to share answers to questions that I got that other people weren't giving me.
All right, great. That's super. I've over the last week or so, I really have the opportunity to watch several of your videos where you're called the HOA ham, but we'll get into this a little bit later, product demos and all that. But as your YouTube channel suggests, HOA ham for homeowners association, I hope. Can you tell us a little bit about your philosophy regarding HOAs?
Yeah. Listen, I love living in an HOA. And if I said that on YouTube, as a matter of fact, I did a video about that. Boy, bipolar response. A lot of people were thanking me because they're in that predicament, and other people were, you should move. The typical thing that you get. And I'm not ashamed of it. I'm happy to live in an HOA for many reasons. To live in the Tampa Bay area and work as I do, I'm employed full time. I had to live in a homeowners association. There's nowhere for me to live that is a reasonable drive to my place of employment unless I live in a homeowners association. And I'm not saying that every homeowners association is wonderful. I've lived probably in, I'm just going to grab a number real quick, 5 of them in my adult life. Some of them were a bit more strict than others. Some of them called you 20 minutes after the trash truck drove by because your trash can was still out at the street and not put away in the garage where it belonged. That's annoying. Where I live now, it's not at all like that. So I do understand there are degrees of homeowners associations. I like living in a place where I don't have to worry about what my neighbors are going to do to their property. I don't have to worry about my neighbor opening a dog kennel right next door to me. I have nothing against dogs. I love dogs, but I don't want a dog kennel next to me. I don't want somebody putting their when were Pintos around? 1970s Pinto up on blocks and leaving it in. You get my point.
Yeah, I want my property yellow one with a hatchback.
Exactly. I want my property value protected, and I think that's primarily what HOAs are about. Again, I realize some of them are extreme. I am fortunate that I don't live in one that's extreme. So it's kind of a thing of necessity for me. And so I have tried to make sure anytime I move into one, I check the covenants and restrictions before I do, so that I don't find myself in a situation that's overly restrictive or too onerous. Now, where I live, the covenants and restrictions say no outside antennas. Now, of course, OTARD protects over-the-air reception antennas, i.e. television dishes. It does not protect ham radio operators, contrary to what many people will comment on YouTube. So here's my approach to homeowners associations. And I could go, Bob, from my approach into showing some specific gear that I use to accommodate those approaches. I'll kind of let you direct that, but here's my thought in operating in a homeowners association. You have a couple of ways to approach it. You can remain low key and follow the spirit of those covenants and restrictions, meaning they're trying to protect property values. If you put up a wire antenna that can't even be seen by your next door neighbor, you have not harmed anyone's property value. And I have had wire antennas up in my homeowners association almost from when I became licensed as a general, and my neighbors walk under them every day of the week and have no clue that they are there. So I'm following the spirit of the rules, granted, not the letter of the rule. So I intend to be low key. That's been my approach to my homeowners association that I live in. I'm not trying to raise awareness of who I am and what I'm doing, even though I have a YouTube channel. My neighbors don't. My neighbors don't know that.
Yeah, and this is probably a lead in to see what you have done in your area. Like you, I have the chameleon antenna, and it's 130 feet of wire up over a tree branch and around another tree. Fortunately, I have about 200 pine trees on my 3 acres that I live in. And I've had the president of our HOA over, and they never knew the black wire was up through the trees. They could never see it.
No,
and,
exactly.
The one thing about Colorado, and we try to tell people that we talk to in our group, that want to put on or put up antennas, is to do that. Check with the HOA, be unobtrusive. Fortunately, with 100 watts and a wire, I can get away with saying it's temporary because it is just strung through the trees. But the other thing that I found with researching this is Colorado does have a 1-year statute of limitations for HOAs to fine you or send you a non-compliance letter for improvements, that you might build in, and let that be a violation of the covenants. Now, is an antenna an improvement? I don't know, but I'm just going to throw that out. about the 12-month statute of limitations and let the
Yeah.
attorneys worry about it.
Exactly.
My antenna's been there a lot longer than that. So I know, let's see some of the adaptations that you've done.
Sure, sure. So this is I believe I can see it's on the large screen there in front of you. This is where I live. This is my neighborhood. So you can live in a homeowners association and have a 5-acre lot. You can live in a homeowners association, have a 1/3 acre lot, which I presume that's probably close to what I have, 1/3, 1/4 acre houses all around me. There were probably close to 5,000 houses in this subdivision in which I live. So densely populated, no fences, no fences. So I can't hide behind a fence. You walk in my backyard. If you look at some of my videos, you'll see me operating backyard portable, and anybody in my backyard can see what I'm doing if they were so inclined to do so. Now, I also live in a retirement community, and not everybody who lives here does still have full-time employment as I do. And so there are lots of people with lots of time on their hands, and they do snoop around. So this is where I live, and this is where I've been operating for 3.5 years without any issue with the homeowners association by keeping it low key. If I operate with something that's visible, it is not a huge attention getter, and it's set up for a couple of hours and then taken back down again. If I'm putting up a portable antenna, up it goes and down it comes a few hours later, with the exception of one, and I can't wait to show that to you. There's also the option you can approach your board of directors if you think you've got a board or homeowners association that is receptive to amateur radio and discrete antennas. Just that's your choice. And then, of course, you have a third choice: hire a lawyer and send them on into the board of directors meeting. I choose not to go that path. Other people have told me they've done it and won, and I consider them lucky that they've won their legal battles because their homeowners association board of directors and their lawyers were uneducated in what the laws actually state about FCC protection of ham radio operators. So antenna options in a homeowners association are, for me, temporary, incognito, stealth, and concealed. So I've got some examples of all of those I'd love to share. Temporary is operating backyard portable, and I'm just going to show you some things that I use operating backyard portable. And by that, I simply mean I'm setting up and tearing down with a great degree of regularity. So I'm not quite sure how I'm coming on the screen. Am I full screen mode still?
No, you have, I guess, your scenes, audio
I know,
mixer.
I see what I'm doing. I see what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's full screen, but it's the software. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Now we have your logo.
We got your logo.
You got my logo. Okay. Let's get back to the software. That's not going to let me go full screen. That's all right. We can make it work. So I'm going to go off screen and just pull some things in here to give you a closer look. So you mentioned chameleon antenna, and I don't know if you had a chance to mention, Bob, but I did send out some information to Bob that he could share with the group there. I do some reviews for chameleon antenna. Just recently, they've taken a liking to HOA ham for whatever reason. And I don't have any affiliate links with them. I receive no compensation for any reviews I do. I love chameleon gear. I have been investing in it all along from early on being a ham radio operator, and they've offered a 10% discount to anybody here at the club through tomorrow night, midnight. Please do me a favor, don't send that around the country because they're going to want to know why my code is showing up around the country. But if you have friends that you want to share it with tonight, tomorrow, that's fine, as long as it stays in the general geographical region. So this is backyard portable to me. This is a ground stake that goes into the ground. It's about 16 inches long. Into the ground it goes. Chameleon has a matching unit that goes onto it, and then a 17-foot telescoping whip that goes on top of this matching unit. And the benefit of operating something like this backyard portable is you can have this set up within 5 minutes in the ground, and the telescoping antenna fully erected, throw a radio wire on it, and before you know it, you're back in the shack operating. The good thing about this matching unit, as long as you have a tuner in the shack, then you're multi-banded and you're not, stressed either on 10 meters, 20 meters, 40 meters, or whatever your favorite operating conditions are. I do also recommend and show on the channel an antenna system by a company called G-Gable Radio and a ground spike from a company called BD7 Maple on eBay. And let me just show you what this is real quick.
And let me interrupt you just for a second. I did send out that Excel spreadsheet you had with your social media, the Amazon affiliates. So everybody in here should have got an email from me this afternoon with that. If not, I only printed off 10 copies of what Bob is talking about. So if you want a hard copy already, I'll go ahead and pass that around. All right, Bob, back to you.
Yeah, so the benefit of something like this is how small it is. Let's just forget this tripod for a second. This is a tiny ground spike. I mean, this we'll probably talk later about POTA soda. I can't do soda. I don't have a Summit anywhere near me here in the state of Florida, so I'd have to travel for that. But I do enjoy POTA, and this is a very small, lightweight ground spike that is a UHF connector on both ends. And the reason why I chose this UHF connector is because of this coil antenna from G-Gable Radio, which also has a UHF connector. So this is a coil antenna, and I use a analyzer to get resonant on whatever frequency I want to operate. But you can see the size of this. It's just tiny. And the telescoping antenna is tiny. Now, this is fragile. you get this out, it's a little bit fragile. But if you want to operate backyard portable, I mean, even something like this is in the ground in a matter of minutes, and it's very minimalistic. And depending on where your neighbors are, how close they are, they may never even see this. If you have a tree that's 8 feet tall and you can kind of put it behind that tree or somewhere that your neighbors can't see around that tree, this antenna disappears. Now, single banded, you're going to get this resonant on 10, 20, 40. You could go 80, but listen, nobody's using antennas like this on 80 meters. It's just too compromised. I have talked on it on 80, but this loading coil is required to get you there, and it is really, really compromised on 80. So I don't do that. I operate primarily 10 through 40 with this type of a setup. So that ground spike also comes in a 3/8 by 24 version, and you could just put a 17-foot whip on this, or a shorter whip if you wanted to get resonant on some other frequency and then go operate in the shack, or POTA soda on something like this. And I do have this antenna in my emergency go kit, which we may end up talking about in a little while. I brought this out because this is by the same company that manufactures the antenna itself. And I use this a lot of times when I go parks on the air. It looks small because it is small. And once you fold it up, it is really relatively small, fits in the palm of your hand, but every one of the legs telescope out, and you can get a great deal of stability with these legs if you want to set up your antenna in a park, or again, backyard portable. This comes with a UHF post and a VHF post. So it's just another piece of gear that I have found very useful for backyard portable, and this is almost always with me when I go on a POTA event. It just dawned on me that I did put the affiliate link in that spreadsheet. If you go to my video, my most recent video on this, there's a 10% discount code there.
Yes, there is.
It's it's $120 or $130 piece of kit. So it's not, it's not inexpensive, but it's pretty awesome at what it does. So let me think. There's probably one more thing I should show for. I'm just trying to think how I can get it up on the screen. There's something else I do backyard portable, and it's a Diamond BB7 antenna. And now you're seeing my logo, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the Diamond BB7 is a multi-banded telescoping antenna, but it's probably about 6 feet tall. It hangs on a wall at my garage, and this is my video on it. I call it a quick deploy vertical antenna. It's a no radial antenna. I immediately hear the groans. I know it's compromised, but when you think about operating in a homeowners association, it's something you need to be able to put up quickly and take down quickly. You know, compromised is okay at times. And I've made contacts all around the world on that particular antenna. So let me show you how quick it will go up and how quick it will come down. Let me pull. So here I am in the backyard. This is my neighbor's house. That's in my neighbor's house. There's another house 20 feet to the left of the one on the left-hand side of the screen. This is just a umbrella spike that I put in the ground. And let me say this, I'm spoiled. I can push almost any spike in my backyard based on the soil content. I have no idea what your soil content is. But in a matter of seconds, I've got a spike in the ground. If I needed to, I could get a rubber mallet on that. The BB7 is in my right hand. I put a piece of galvanized pipe on it. And I already have my coax permanently attached to it in the garage. It just hangs on some hooks in the garage wall. My wife's doing this video for me. She'll pan away in a second, and you'll see me just twist locking this. It's not a friction fit. It's a twist lock where there's a mechanical engagement. And within 5 minutes, this 22-foot vertical is up in the air. And now you see more homes all around me. So this would be an antenna that I put up. I operate for the couple of hours that I want to operate. If it's getting into the evening, I'll work 40 meters on OMISNet, and I'll pull it down in seconds. So this is very close to my back porch. The next clip here is a thunderstorm is brewing. This is my Ring camera capturing me taking down this antenna. So watch how fast this thing comes down. Now, the BB7's not cheap. I think it's a $300 antenna, a $400 antenna, not cheap. But here's how quickly it's coming down. I just pull it simply out of that ground spike. Up comes the ground spike. It goes in the corner at my back porch. That's right where the Ring camera is. There's a little corner there. I just lean it up against. I walk back in the house and forget about it while the thunderstorm blows through. So that's kind of my idea on backyard portable. If I don't want to use one of my wire antennas, then I pick something like that I can put up and quickly take down. So I have 2 more categories, Bob. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Because I was going to ask you about POTA and your bicycle mobile.
Okay. The other 2 categories I'm just going to cover real quick. So incognito. Let's bring a picture up here, and I'm just going to show you the thumbnail on my video and explain what I did. So around the Christmas holidays, every once in a while, a YouTuber will do a video of Christmas lights flashing when RF gets transmitted through them. Not exactly what I want in a homeowners association when I'm trying to remain under the radar. So I did the good old Christmas lights, but I used white lights only. It was a white wire set, so everything was white, put up against the fascia of my house on the eave and made a dipole out of it. I pulled out every light. I clipped the wires off of it so they could not conduct electricity or RF, and superglued them back into the little holder. And I had a dipole on 20 meters for 4 months, operating incognito. HOA couldn't care less that I had Christmas lights up, and I got 4 months of operation out of my 20-meter dipole. That video is live on my channel, and I'll show you the build. I show you the install, and you go pick up a couple strings of Christmas lights at your favorite hardware store, and you can operate with Christmas lights. Now, in my homeowners association, they allow decorative lights up year round. So if I wasn't experimenting for YouTube, I might have left those up year round. But I took my dipole, I removed my center connector, connected the 2 wires, and added some more wire to it to see if I could turn it into an end fed. And sure enough, I turned my Christmas light dipole into a 73-foot end fed and made many contacts on it while I was testing it out. So my most favorite recent method of operation is stealth. So stealth meaning it's hiding in plain sight. Now, I do not know if you will get audio with this. It's my YouTube short, and I'm searching for it right now. I think I just found it. Nope, that's not it. But it's a chameleon antenna. They call it a CHA portamast. Everything with chameleon is CHA, C-H-A. I guess it stands for chameleon. It's a portamast. Comes in 15 foot, 20 foot, I think 25 foot. They meant it to be a mast. They say you could make a flagpole out of it if you want to. Well, of course, I live in a homeowners association that permits flagpoles. Of course, I wanted to make a flagpole out of it. So let's see if the short will play. Are you getting any sound?
No, it's very
okay. So I'll talk through it. I'll talk through. So this is me just taking it down. And when I first installed this, I just installed this about maybe a month. I installed it before our most recent patriotic holidays. I guess Memorial Day, 4th of July. So I just installed this about a week before 4th of July, took my flag off of it. And I thought I'm going to go ahead and put a wire on this, and I'm going to put it up because here in our homeowners association, not only are flagpoles accepted, 90% of the people that own flagpoles don't have flags on them. And it's still a flagpole. So I could just run this wire permanently, but I don't do that. Also, this thing goes portable with you. You just take it out of the concrete pillar in the ground and take it portable. So let me give you the punchline on this thing. What I eventually did was this right here. So it flies in my backyard at 20 feet maximum height as a flagpole. Can you see this right here? It's my wire.
Okay, see.
So there's my wire, and let me show you where it goes. Well, this is where it went when I first set it up. And by the way, the bend in that flagpole, I use a 360 camera. It's fisheye as you get out to the end of the the photo. Trust me, that portamast from Chameleon is unbelievably strong. So when I first set this up, I've got my wire right about here on the flagpole. There's actually a clip on that portamast that I added that holds my wire. I brought it down to that spike that I showed you earlier, and this is Chameleon's, they call it a CHA hybrid mini. And so it's a matching unit. So here again, I'm multi-banded. And Bob, here's that puck. There's a radial puck right here. We can get back to that in a minute. So this is now, I've got this wire up permanently now. And let me show you what I've done with it. I've taken it out of the yard because I don't do my own lawn here in the HOA. We pay people to do it. That's part of the benefit of living in an HOA. I took that wire and I put it on a utility box on the back of the house. And I installed that CHA hybrid mini inside of this utility box. So now what I have in the backyard is a utility box on my house that my neighbors see as any utility box. And I've got a flagpole that's 30 yards away from, or let's see, my wire's 30 feet. So 12 yards away from this is my flagpole. This is now my station reference antenna. So to me, this is now a permanent setup. And it's a way for me to operate in the HOA very much incognito. There's a view from that box that I just put on the wall. You can see the wires going up to the flagpole.
And in the state of Colorado, statewide, several years ago, they passed Senate Bill 100, only because I took it to my HOA, that no HOA can prevent you from putting up a flagpole and flying a patriotic, religious, or some other kind, I got it here in my notes, flag.
Awesome.
So I have a telescoping flagpole that I got from a flag manufacturer at some trade show that was going on. But I'm thinking of doing that chameleon one in my backyard. So I got two flags flying. I'm overly patriotic.
Well, I'll tell you what took me, and I'm going to show one more antenna in
Yeah,
a second.
And
I'll
that
bring-
flagpole, when I get my avalanche flag up there, I'll send you a picture.
I'll tell you why I did this. I love operating backyard portable. As a matter of fact, it's how I got started here. I didn't know what to do when I first started in ham radio. Operating backyard portable, I would set up an antenna late in the day, operate for a couple of hours, take it down. Did that over and over and over again. And I'm thinking there's got to be a way for me to get a wire up. Well, my wire antenna went to another part of the property, and it went over top of a sidewalk. Now I'm running 100 watts. I mean I do care. Obviously, I care about what people are experiencing. I don't want to bring any harm to anybody, so I'm careful how I operate. I was more concerned about being seen because I'm right on the street, and so this is in my backyard. I decided to go backyard. So I'm patriotic. I love flying our colors, but also it's more cost effective than buying a true flagpole antenna. I have priced the really high quality flagpole antennas. You're over $1,000 easily.
Step for IR over 2,000.
Yeah. So to get a really good one, you're out. I mean, you can buy yourself a really nice radio for that kind of money. And I am in the state of Florida. I'm in, lightning. Storms coming through. You saw me in the video pull that portamast down. I could take it down in 30 seconds and pull it out of the ground. And the way I set up my box on the back wall, I wish I would have taken a picture of it open. There's enough room inside of that little utility box that I have a wire winder in there. So if I need to pull it down, I just wind up my wire, put the winder in the box, close it up, take my flagpole down and walk away with it, or take it on a POTA activation. So that's why I went the chameleon route instead of putting an actual, a flagpole that's made by some of these companies as an actual antenna. One more thing I'll show, and then I'll pause and let you take over, because once you get me going on these things that I'm excited about, well, it's hard to stop me.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
So here's your invisible. It's in my attic. My HOA will never know it. Never, ever, ever. This is a chameleon antenna F loop. And I had thought about putting my F loop in my attic during major storms coming through, thinking I want to get on the hurricane watch net. I don't want to have to worry about my wire antenna outside. If it's coming at me as a tropical storm, I really don't want my wire out there. I don't want a backyard portable antenna up. Put my mag loop in the attic, tune it into the hurricane watch net, and just leave it alone. At that point, not only am I single banded, I'm single frequency, and it's in my attic. So if I want to change frequency, how in the world am I going to do that? Well, Chameleon came up with this thing they call a remote tuner. And off the left-hand side here, that's what this is. This little plastic tube here goes and it gets attached to the front of the control box that tunes the F loop, your magnetic loop. And there's a motor in there. And this is this black remote control here. You actually hardwire it, and you got to get a wire into your attic. Now, when I built my shack, I did that because I have 4 antennas in my attic space. So I made sure that I created a path and pre-ran cable for things I didn't even know I was going to need. I ran 2 power cables, I ran a Cat5 cable, I ran a control cable, and I ran 4 coax cables. So I pre-planned for something that I didn't know I needed yet. As a matter of fact, Chameleon didn't even have that remote loop tuner out there yet. But now, from the comfort of my shack, I can. And am I physically on the screen or just my picture?
Both. You're
okay.
There.
When I plug this remote tuner in, I can tune up and down the bands that mag loop can get resonant on from this remote tuner with the cable. It's a 5-volt cable. So we're not talking about serious electricity. We're talking 5-volt DC. And that's how I control that remote tuner in the attic space with this F loop. So when people say I live in a homeowners association, I can't get on the air, I say, yes, you can. Now, and again, it's with my set of circumstances. I realize not everybody's are like mine. So I do want to state that your attic space, you might have metal insulation on your roof as a heat barrier. Forget it. You're in a Faraday cage, right? So you don't necessarily have an opportunity to have an attic antenna farm. I have an attic antenna farm. I don't have metal on my roof anywhere, and it's a little noisier than an outside antenna. I do pick up noise from my house, but I still have no problem making contacts on these antennas. I've made many contacts on that F loop over to Europe from Florida.
Great.
So I'll pause. Tell me where to go next.
All right.
I'll keep talking.
It's fine. You're doing great. You're doing great. Living in the Tampa Bay area, I know we talked earlier about this. It's a tie or flip-flops back and forth as to whether Colorado or Florida has the most lightning strikes. And you live in the Tampa Bay area, so I know you've experienced the hurricane that went through in the last few years. A lot of our members in the club initially got involved in ham radio for emergency operations.
Okay.
So a lot of times here in Colorado, we get severe weather. We have a daily weather net over the summer for thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms. If we get severe snowstorms, they activate the weather net. But I know you dealing with hurricanes, we experience wildfires, severe weather, and during those, is it not a disaster, but events, our folks experience limited cell phone coverage. And sometimes it's even if we're traveling through Colorado, you might not have cell phone coverage. So that's why a lot of our folks got into, ham radio, even just, an HT is better than, the Magnavox FRS radio. So what have you experienced in the way of emergency operations, the AKA or the hurricanes? I know you talked about the hurricane net, so maybe give us a little background on what you're doing on the East Coast there.
Yeah, so great question. I mean, one of the reasons that I got into ham radio was emergency preparedness. As a matter of fact, that was the draw, emergency preparedness. And so what you see on the large screen would be the National Hurricane Center as of just a couple of days ago, with all the storms that are currently out in the Atlantic headed our way. Now, most of these, I followed their track, and they're going to take a sharp turn north and circle away from the Florida area and the United States and Canada. But that's not always the case with these things. So this is the time of the year that I kid you not, almost every day I wake up and one of the first things I do is check NOAA Hurricane Center, because I just want to see what's going on. And if you want to talk about watching a slow train wreck, that's what it's like watching a hurricane track across the Atlantic Ocean for 2 weeks before it finally decides where it's going to hit. So what do I do for emergency preparedness? Two things I'll talk about. And the first one is just, I've got my Anytone 878 here in front of me. We have two linked repeater networks here in the Tampa Bay area. As a matter of fact, one of them goes almost the entire way north-south the state of Florida. I think it might even go into the state of Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. And there's another one that's more regional here in Tampa Bay. I think it's a 5 repeater system. And there are operators who do nothing but focus on the weather. Now, the one that goes and covers the entire state, they don't mind if you get on and chit chat and catch up a little bit and ask a couple of questions, but it's primarily emergency related. It's not stated, of course, they can't control that, but that's what they do. So when there's any storms that are coming across the state, the first thing I do is log. I just turn on my HT, or I turn on my FTM 400 if I'm in my truck, and I start listening, because inevitably they're going to come on and tell me where the storm is, and there's going to be somebody in the affected area that talks about the wind readings that they're getting, the level of rainfall that they're experiencing, and any tornado touchdowns. The one that's local to us, if we actually have a weather event that comes and just hits us right here and knocks out our power, which would be one of the most common things that happens to us. So forget hurricane, forget tropical storm. We've got thunderstorms that will just crop up all of a sudden and blow on through and take out our power. I have my HT right there and I hear what's going on, and that's how I keep track. Of course, I could put on a weather station. I could, well, at that point, I've lost my electricity. I'm not turning on the television. I've lost my cable at that point in time. So I could turn on a weather radio. I'm getting generalized information. Listening to our connected repeater systems, I'm getting very specific information from people on the ground talking about the situation where they are in proximity to where I am. So this to me is crucial in regional events that come up quickly and leave quickly. The next thing I'm about to do is going to get probably a little messy, and I'm just going to do it because I think it could be helpful to you. So as far as emergency kits, I will say this. This is my 5th iteration, and I have gone from something, my first one was maybe 2 to 3 times the size of this. Then the next one got bigger, the next one got bigger, and all of a sudden it was like, I can't even carry this anymore. What am I doing? What is this really an emergency kit? I went bipolar again. This is an Expedition large drinking water bottle pack. Bear with me. Bear with me. Oh, before I open it up, I need to do something else. Let me tell you why. I'm going to go off screen so there's more of the pack showing. The whole purpose behind this was this: because those storms that happen in the state of Florida can come up quickly, tornadoes can come with them. So if I ever hear a tornado coming, I grab this while I'm grabbing my wife's hand and we jump in the tub in the room that is the safest room in our house. And now I have my wife, and now I have this, which you'll see in just a moment. In the spirit of trying to stay small, I have what I consider here an emergency kit that not only goes with me when the tornado comes unexpectedly in a storm that blows up all of a sudden. This kit could then go into a larger bag for a hurricane that I know is coming and can plan for. So it's modular. This then goes into the next size backpack. This is my foundational kit right here. 2 things. I purposely didn't put these with it because they're add-ons. They're a little bit violating my original thought that this was the end all be all. But the reason I did them, you'll understand in a moment. I'm going to give 2 things away right now. Inside of this pack is an IC705. This is a ID52, same battery as the IC705. So I paired up an HT with my IC705, so I permanently have 2 batteries. If I lose AC power, I at least have 2 batteries, and I only need to run potentially 1 unit at a time. I can run my HT, I can run my IC705. So yeah, this makes a little bit more bulk, but this attaches to the MOLLE on this. And then, of course, being an emergency preparedness guy, I thought to myself, what if I really, really go grid down long term? One of the most painful purchases I ever made. Of course, I have no regrets. I'm a buy once, cry once type of person. Anybody know what I have here? Permanent power. This is a battery pack encapsulated in a solar panel. I can go permanent off-grid. So this has USB connectors that will allow me to operate my IC705, will allow me to charge the battery on my IC705, will allow me to charge my battery on my ID52. So with the combination of the ID52 and this power film, solar panel and battery, I truly am off-grid capable forever, as long as I have food and water. So now back to this. And again, this is going to be painful because I don't know if it's all going to fit here on the screen. Let's try it. I have everything in this pack that I could possibly need to operate. IC 705. And my shack is going to be a mess tomorrow morning when I wake up, and there's going to be stuff strewn all over the floor.
Thank you.
And you're seeing every nook and cranny of this is filled with something. You're seeing, look at this. There's I got my HT antenna in there because of why is this the brand of this escaping me? Some of you know what this is. Anyone know the brand?
Signal stick.
There you go, signal stick. Does this look familiar? There's my G Gable 7350T antenna. Yes, I do keep the 80-meter coil with me because in a true emergency, I want it. I can hear, probably can't be received very well because I've got a compromised signal. Well, I can go all the way from 6 to 80. And that's not local, right? Unless I can get some ground wave propagation. I'm not talking to people local in the emergency, but we all know in ham radio, we can relay. I can't fit an NVIS antenna in this thing. I can fit this antenna that will get me, you know, geographically a couple 100 miles away. And even if I have to go 1,000 miles away, I can get a relay back to the local area if I can't get out on UHF, VHF. So what else is in here? Well, of course, we have to have a bio and a battery. All right, that's it for the inside of the kit. Three ground radials with a banana plug. I think I've exhausted the bag. So I've got a battery in addition to the battery that's on the back of my 705. I've got cables to connect my antenna. I've got, and we'll talk about the antenna connection in just a moment. I've got my microphone. This right here, some of you may be familiar with. I hope the brand name is on here. Yes, it is, WindCamp. So this is the original WindCamp connector. Now, I'm not going to connect this now because it's just going to get too cumbersome. Notice the UHF connector. My 7350T from G Gable will go right onto this bracket. And my bracket will go onto my IC 705. I've got my 7350T broadbanded HF telescoping antenna right on the backside of my 705 in an emergency situation. The ground radials will attach to a banana plug ring terminal on this cable or on this bracket. And when I want to get resonant, of course, I've got the power cord here. I just want to make sure you see I have everything. I have a MFJ analyzer that fits in the pack so I can actually get resonant. You could get resonant by sound, right? You can change that coil, and based on the noise, you know you're getting close to resonance. You can use your SWR meter on your IC 705. I could fit this analyzer in there, so I did. So when you ask me, what's my emergency preparedness? Well, here's the mess that fit into this bag. And like I said, it stays at a very conspicuous place in our house. If I need to grab and go, I make sure I get my wife first and my radio second. And I can deal with virtually any calms down situation indefinitely if I add this power film solar panel battery backup to it. So when you ask what I do for emergency preparedness, you know, kind of talk about UHF, VHF for listening to the local repeater systems when a storm is coming through. When it comes to, you know, needing HF capabilities, this is what I do. So there's the mess. It takes a little while to get it back in the pack perfectly. It only took me, what, 6-7 minutes to get it out. I can't see myself migrating away from this. I might tweak it. This was a tweak. Adding the ID52 was a tweak. But at this point, I feel like I have everything I need in almost any situation for communication. So that's my emergency communication plan.
Well, I think that's a good lead in, being you mentioned banana plugs.
Yes.
One of the things I love about your YouTube channel are your product reviews that you do. And for a history major, I really appreciate your approach to technical topics and how to make life easier. And now that we've gotten a chance to talk to you, as a problem solver. And I too am addicted to Chameleon and a loyal supporter, I guess, with my checkbook, maybe credit card. But you have a recent video on the new Chameleon vertical and the radial puck.
Yes.
That I fell in love with in about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Can you show a little demo on the radial puck or radial puck?
Yes, let me do that. So what Bob is talking about is I introduced the new product for Chameleon. Again, I don't know why they've taken an interest in HOA ham. I'm a smaller channel in comparison to some that they work with. They basically rolled out the red carpet and said, Bob, we want you to introduce this new product. We think it's going to be, a pretty significant addition to their product line. They call it a CHA PRV, portable resonant vertical. It's a coil antenna. And everything Chameleon is typically top end. So they'll take an idea and they'll just make it premium from a performance perspective and a materials and workmanship perspective. Now, it probably won't, it doesn't transmit any different than my G Gable Radio 7350 telescoping coil antenna, but the materials and craftsmanship are worlds apart. And we see lots of things like that in ham radio. I actually have a video planned called The Clash of the Coils. I'm going to be comparing the new Chameleon CHA portable resonant vertical PRV to the Wolf River coil. I love Wolf River coil antennas. I think they're awesome antennas. It's great gear, reasonably priced. My G Gable Radio 7350T, it's a coil antenna. And I also own a super antenna. It's a coil antenna. There are two others out there that I don't own. There's the slide winder, and I think there's a new one called a res antenna, which the res is high end also on materials and price. So I'm going to do a clash of the coils. I cannot believe, I fully expect that every one of them is going to send out RF and receive RF equal. There's going to be virtually no difference in how they communicate as long as I'm putting the whips at the same height, etc. But the craftsmanship and the materials that go into them, the expandability, the adaptability would be the difference on them. So let's talk about the coil, the puck that goes with that coil. And before we do that, let me share this, because not everybody can afford Chameleon gear. And like you said, it's not always our checkbook. Sometimes it's our credit card. And I do want to show that there's an option out there. This is a video that I did, it might be close to a year ago now. I got tired of every portable antenna system having a different radial package. Annoyed the living daylights out of me. And so if you watch that video, you're going to see me come up with a way to attach a radial system to every one of them. And it's with this very high quality Mueller 40 amp alligator clip. And on the other side of that alligator clip, I have two Desco ring terminals that accept banana plugs. So I have a cheap version of the Chameleon antenna. Theirs is much more elegant, and I have one. But this is what I came up with. And I then put as many radials as work for me on a banana plug. And now I can go to any one of my portable antenna systems, which I probably have a dozen of them, and I can attach this to the leg of a Wolf River coil tripod. I can attach this to the screw on my BD7 Maple ground spike, which I showed earlier. And in that video that's on the screen, I go in the backyard and show you antenna system by antenna system by antenna system how to do this. This is reasonably priced gear. So all of a sudden, everybody's coming out with banana plugs. Yep, Bob does a video a year ago. Now everybody's talking about banana plugs. So I'm just patting myself on the back because they probably were thinking about these ideas long before me. I was the pragmatist that got it out there first. Chameleon did it in a very elegant way. So their solution is this. Most of their antennas have the ground system through the bottom threaded screw or stud, and their coax is coming out the side. So almost everything Chameleon has this ground stud. So it's going into some type of bracket that you can put on a picnic table. You can clamp to a metal fence post or the ground spike that I showed you earlier. So they designed for their new antenna system this ground puck, and they're selling this ground puck separately that just screws onto the bottom of their antenna systems. The ground spike can still go here on the bottom threads that are still protruding to the bottom of this. You can see there's still about 3/4 inch worth of threads there. That'll then go into the ground spike, and into the ground you go. And there are 6 holes around the perimeter of this. And then, of course, Chameleon is selling their own radial systems with this and Ingo radials. So when you talk about fast setup on radials, a banana plug into a hole on a puck or into an alligator clip is just incredibly fast and versatile. Now, this will work on all Chameleon antenna systems that use this type of style. Their new coil antenna has this type of style of a base. The top of it is a coil. But this puck isn't going to work with something like a Wolf River coil, because the bottom stud on the Wolf River coil is radiating RF. So the puck with Chameleon is really more geared towards Chameleon products than it is more universal to all other antennas, but it works fantastic with their antenna systems. And like I said, it is what they are introducing with the CHA Portable Resonant Vertical. The CHA Portable Resonant Vertical looks like this. So here it is on my desktop as I was doing a video on it. I'm going to say, I had to send it back because this was a prototype. I'm going to say the portion of this that is the green, and this is the sliding portion, that is probably about 12 to 14 inches tall. And this whip antenna here, think of the SS-17 or the MFJ 1979, a very beefy antenna whip, but they shrunk it down. It's like they threw it in the dryer and just shrunk it down. It's, I don't know, maybe 15, 16 inches long, collapsed. Here's a picture from their website. So here is the actual coil. So this green sleeve is sliding up and down, revealing more coil, which means as you slide it up, you're lengthening your antenna. And then this is the kit as they're selling it. They're selling the coil by itself, and then they're also selling it in 2 different kit configurations. And in typical Chameleon fashion, it is both phenomenally great gear and also painful on the pocketbook. I'll show you one more thing and then I'll pause. So when you ask about how maybe I do some of my YouTube stuff, as I think about doing that clash of the coils, I may or may not share this. This is kind of how I look at all products. These are the products that I would say are competitors. You got the CHA PRV, you've got the G-Gable 7350, which I've shown you. You got the Super Antenna, you've got the Wolf River Coil, and you've got the new Res Ranger 80. I don't own it. I don't own a slide winder. So these are in yellow because I don't own them. Then I look at all the characteristics that are important to me: construction, materials, performance, watts rated, appearance, modularity, meaning how many different ways what accessories are available for it, maybe is a better way. And you have yet to see all the accessories for the CHA PRV. Looks like I've got performance there twice, so I've got to work on my spreadsheet. Speed to operating, and I just go on and on and on. These are categories: quality category, capability, bulk, street cred. I use a rating scale. I've got a lot of Six Sigma lean training, and the way you do a prioritization matrix is you weight something with a number. So 3 being the least, 7 being the greatest. So the CHA PRV from construction is a 7, the G-Gable radio is a 3. It's a differentiator. And if you take these types of measurements all the way across, you can come up with a rating, and then you can even put a 3, 5, or 7 on the broad category. And you can see 464, 332, 332, etc. What am I saying? Am I saying that I don't want the lowest rated antenna on that screen? Absolutely not. I own the lowest rated antenna on that screen because I think it's phenomenal gear. So every one of those antennas that I have on that matrix, I own because I think they're phenomenal gear. They're just different. So when I do a review, I will try to give each viewer I'll try to inform a viewer with enough information that they can make a decision about what is most important to them. And they don't have to just sit there and flip a coin on which one of the ones they go by. If money's no object, if you're not restricted by money, what else is important to you? Well, it has to run at least 500 watts. Okay, well, then you don't even need half of those on the list because half of them don't run 500 watts. But that's how I kind of go about trying to look at gear that I show on the channel. The PRV is of all the coil antennas I have, it is hands down the highest quality, most premium antenna. It still doesn't send RF out any better than this. But if I had a bigger go bag than what I showed you, I would be putting the PRV in it rather than this every day of the week. So now that there's a PRV, I might have to think about changing that black Maxpedition water bottle, right? We get new gear and we have to modify the way we engage the ham way of life. Again, you're catching me about things I'm passionate about, so I'll pause. Otherwise, I'll keep going.
No, that was great. That was great. And like I said, I encourage everybody to get on his YouTube channel and check out. This is one of his most recent videos, where he gets to go to the factory and you show how they wind the coil and how everything is made. And you could tell just from the video the quality difference of some other antennas. And then he does a side-by-side test of another manufacturer that will remain nameless except when he shows the SWR. and it's one that a lot of us have, Wolf River Coil. So yeah, but I mean they're very well done. So in respect to your time, what I'd like to do is see any you folks have any questions for Bob on anything? I guess we're astounded. Oh no, he's got your YouTube site up on the chat. So what do you got next in mind for your shack or your videos? What are you looking for in the next few months or longer down the road?
Yeah, fair question. And I got to look at my notes on this one because if I showed you my video backlog, I probably have about 25 projects in works right now. I started a shack build out series because I literally rebuilt my shack. We had some water damage in the home where my shack was located. And my wife said to me, why don't you take over that walk-in closet that's bigger than our daughter's first bedroom? We never use that walk-in closet for anything. And I'm like, who am I to argue with my wife? Yes, dear, I would love that walk-in closet. It's 4 times bigger than my current shack space. And at that point in time, I was getting more into YouTube. So if you saw what was around me here, it's a shack/studio. And I'm probably 2/3 to 3/5 of the way through that video series. It's time to finish that. I have shiny object syndrome and FOMO. And so it's very easy for me to get sidetracked. So I need to finish that shack build out series so that, people feel like I've gotten to the finish line. There's still some questions that they have. I've gotten through all the internal construction, running coax, doing your outside utility box, grounding, bonding, all the kind of stuff that's necessary. But it's time to tell people why I would choose a 7300 or an FT991A. I own them both. Why did I start with an FT991A? Why do I run a 7300 now? Types of questions that could help a new ham radio operator. Not me convincing them what's right for them, me telling them now what I know 4 years later, so it could help them make an informed decision. So I want to get back to that shack series. The CHOP PRV, I did have to send that back. Chameleon is taking pre-orders because I do videos for them. They do send me that antenna system for me to have at no cost to me. So the 35 hours I put into doing that original video review and making that video for them, which 35 hours divided by whatever the thing cost. So that's my hourly rate. And I plan on doing that Clash of the Coils video. And again, only because I think, I don't know that Chameleon would want me to do that. Chameleon doesn't want me necessarily to put 4 more coil antennas right up next to theirs. But to be fair and open and honest, I mean, that's what I have to be as a YouTuber. Nobody tells me what I'm going to say about any product they send me. It's about a 50-50 split between what I buy and what I show on the channel. And on my channel, you'll see a little thing at the top that says includes a promotion. And what that means is somebody sent me something free of charge. So I think for me, I want to take that PRV and I want to put it next to 4 other antennas and talk about it. So again, people can make an informed decision. Maybe the $125 G Gable radio antenna is good enough for you. Then you've got to add a $130 tripod, or you add a $30 BD7 maple ground spike, or maybe you already have a system or method to get it up in the air. You probably do if you're a ham radio operator. You have a way to attach that antenna system. So the CHA PRV and the Clash of the Coils is going to be coming up very soon. And then one more picture. Let me share my screen. I should have not taken screen share away just yet. So this will be on the channel soon in the next couple of weeks. It won't be ready for sale anytime soon, but I'm now doing, where did it go? Here it is. So that's a really tiny picture that I blew up. That says Matt Tuner, and that says Chameleon antenna right over top of a big M stamped inside of that tuner. So this is a control box that goes in the shack, and this is the tuner that can go outside. It is a ruggedized tuner that Matt Tuner and Chameleon are collaborating on. It's intended to be a tuner that does not need to be controlled by any specific radio. All the control happens right here in this box. I actually just finished testing this for Chameleon today, as a matter of fact, and asked them who they want me to send it on to next. So this will be showing up in the on the channel sometime real soon. And this is me with it in the shack with my FX4CR. If you know anything about the FX4CR or your IC705, you don't have tuners in these radios. This is a 20-watt QRP radio. Unbelievable little radio. Doesn't have a tuner. So here I am testing out this Matt tuner with that radio, and I was getting that 30-foot wire, which if you hear me say that out loud, a 30-foot wire going up to my flagpole, I was getting resonant on 10, 20, 40, 80, and transmitting and making contacts with excellent signal reports. So that's one of the things I'm working on right now, would be that antenna tuner for Chameleon antennas, doing testing for them. So the CHA PRV, they told me, was in a test cycle for over 2 years. That was in development for over 2 years. So, and I apologize. I love this stuff. So I have this relationship with G Gable Radio. It's a manufacturer in Taiwan. They're an eBay, they're an Amazon seller. When I say I have a relationship with them, they send me stuff to test. And before I have a chance to give them my final thoughts, the new product's on Amazon. I didn't even get to test the final product. And it's kind of like, wait, are we sure it works? Are we sure it was ready for the market? And there have been a couple times that I went back to them and said, in your next production run, can you make sure you make this change? You should have waited. That's the nature of, certain regions of the world. We all know that if you buy some radios out of China, that some people can't stand that, other people do. You know that sometimes you're the test. You're the beta tester. The radio is not coming out to you in a finely tuned product. You're the beta tester. Chameleon antenna, CHA PRV, 2+ years in the works and testing it and refining it.
Great. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. And you have my vote for presenter of the year.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's been my pleasure. I do very much appreciate you. I look at what I do on YouTube as a financial exchange. You're exchanging your valuable time to listen to me, and I better bring something of value back to you. So I know you exchanged your time tonight for me, and I thank you for that.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
We'll keep in touch. Thanks, Bob.
You bet.